Hi, I'm Andy Durazo, and today I have Amanda Andrade from the Education, Child Care, and Family Services Department. Tell me about your department.
Hi there, Andy. Thank you so much for having me. We're a really neat department. We're called the CFES department, Child, Family, and Education Studies. Now, it's really unique because we have three main areas. We have child development, we have education, and we have what we call family and consumer sciences. So, our biggest, by far, discipline is our child development. Now, we support early childhood educators and those who want to even open their own home daycares. Our education component is elementary educators, so people who want to go into being elementary, middle, high school educators later. And then our family and consumer studies department actually supports students going into nutrition and dietetics, as well as those who are interested in gerontology. Now, that might be a new term for some of our listeners, but gerontology is actually the study of aging. So we support students who are interested in going into nursing care, home health care aides, community health workers, and the like. That's really what our department's about.
Obviously, there are lots of jobs available in this field. I mean, especially with the graying of America, as they say. So, what are we looking at in terms of jobs and pay rates and those kinds of things?
Sure, absolutely. Now, there are a lot of jobs for all of the disciplines that I just described. Now, let's start with the gerontology. So, the grain of America, we're seeing at least 10,000 people turning 65 years old each and every day through the baby boom years. Now, this means lots of jobs and lots of essential workers. So, that's kind of a term we never really thought about until the pandemic. Now, what does that mean? It means that we're always going to need this care, really, no matter what's happening. So we're seeing entry level work for students to come in $17, $18 an hour and up. Now, that's just at the very beginning. That's just with a couple of classes of specialization and learning about the sociology of aging, medical terminology, and these types of things. Now, once individuals go further into their AA degree, their bachelor's, and the like, more in the health services area, students can be earning over $60,000, $70,000 a year and more. When we talk about child development, we also have a ton of jobs. And just recently, the governor, as well as our city government officials, have dedicated resources to funding and reopening many of the childcare sites that were closed during the pandemic. So it's really a great time to also get into or get back into the early childhood education field, either as an entry-level worker, being a childcare assistant, or if you've come back as an incumbent worker and taken a few extra professional development classes, it's a great time to even start your own business as a family childcare entrepreneur.
So, um, tell me about our certificate programs and graduation degree program or transfer. Do we get good transfers to other universities? 4 years.
Absolutely. So we have partnerships with many of our local CSU schools. We also have transfer agreements with UCLA, as well as USC, which is wonderful. Now, we offer specializations, especially in our early childhood education field, where students can get certifications on their way to their associate's degree. So we don't just want a student to get an AA at ELAC and transfer, and that's it. We want them to get an AA, and we want them to find what they're passionate about. We want them to say, I'm really interested in children with special needs, or infants and toddlers is the way that I want to go, or I'd love to be an administrator when I get where I'm going at the end of my educational career. So we have put into place several different certifications with those specific interests in mind. They'll take a couple of extra classes, but really a lot of these classes build into what they're working toward already for their AA. So they're not going to spend an extra semester or an extra year at ELAC. It's going to work along their process of their transfer. Now, our nutrition degree also is an associate of transfer. Our elementary education is also an associate for transfer, meaning the students take the assigned classes, on their statement. They make sure that they pass with a C or better, and they're guaranteed admission to one of our partner CSU schools. So it's a really super opportunity for students to get through ELAC in a timely manner so that they can finish their degrees and get onto the workforce as quickly as possible.
I was just wondering, you mentioned a few things, so I was wondering if we have do we have an internship? Do we have any partners that we do internship programs, or maybe a shadow program or something like that along those lines?
Absolutely. We have a strong mentorship program within our early childhood education, child development discipline. Now, the state used to fund something that they called the teacher prep mentorship program. That funding has run out. So we've sort of been creative in developing our own mentorship program. We offer two classes, our Child Development 22 and Child Development 23 classes, which are designated as our practicum. So that's what we call it, field experience, but it's practicum for us. And students are required to complete 108 hours of field work and experience, hands-on learning, so that they're really ready when they get into the field to be able to support children. Now, that also aligns with our state permit program. So students who want to become permitted teachers will follow the ELAC guidelines, get the ELAC certificates, but they're also going to be aligned with what the state says. And that was an intentional plan on our part, making sure that students wouldn't be kind of doing our programs in vain. It would be supporting them to get into the workforce. We're also planning a field internship opportunity for gerontology students. Now, we're not there yet, so I can't tell you, the name of the class because we haven't had it approved yet. But our goal is to, in the next year, develop some internship programs to support those who are interested in gerontology as well.
You mentioned teaching. I always thought that you needed a 4-year degree for teaching. Is that correct, or do we have teaching credentials here that we can get here at ELAC?
Yes and no. So with early childhood education, you don't need a credential. So that's something specialized. Our early childhood educators really only need 6 units of early childhood education credits. So this can be like our most basic, I want to say basic with an asterisk next to it, lots of theoretical components, lots of new terminology, vocabulary, things like that. With as little as 6 units, students can get into a preschool type classroom and support a lead teacher. So that's great for getting into the workforce and being a workforce development department. Now, to become a lead teacher in a classroom, you'll need to get 12 units plus. This is where we get into making sure that teachers have that state permit, that they're following the guidelines. And as they further their education up to the associate's degree and further, they'll be able to move up in the early childhood education realm. Now, if a student is interested in elementary education, you're absolutely right. They will need to go through our associate's program for early childhood education, transfer to a bachelor's program and complete it, as well as getting their certificate or their certification from the state to be a licensed teacher. So that's a little bit different, but we are the first step in that process.
We talked a little bit before we started recording about gerontology, and you seem to be a bit excited about that. I'd like to hear a little bit more about what's going on. We've got the early childhood education going on. Now let's go to the older population. What's going on with that?
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you felt my passion because that is actually what I am certified in. So I am a gerontologist. In my master's program, I studied gerontology, and prior to teaching at the higher education level, I worked in nursing care and assisted living facilities. So this is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm so pleased to offer the one program that we currently do. Now, that is a certificate of achievement in gerontology/health. Now, the slash is because we have partnered with Allied Health, so another department. So this is an interdisciplinary program where we, as the Family and Consumer Studies part of it, offer 3 classes, our Challenges of Aging, our Nutrition, and our Life Management class. And then there are 4 classes offered by the Allied Health Department. These are all about skill sets for the health professional, medical terminology, cultural and legal topics, and fundamentals. So what we're hoping to do, and what we're hoping that someone who would be interested in this would continue to do, is get the technical skills, get the social skills, put those together, and then through those opportunities, it will boost their resume. So when they go into work, maybe as a caregiver, potentially as an activity leader, or a social services designee or something to that matter in an assisted care living facility, they would have a leg up on others who would come, not having much experience in that vein. So we're hoping to expand our gerontology program. We know that this is a booming area. It's an opportunity for more employment for our students. It's definitely not going to be something that's going away. We're actually seeing our number of young people in the world, in the United States, going down, and the number of older people going up. So we're going to have to shift some of our focus, especially in our education, to the later end of the spectrum.
Oh, that sounds great. Now, talk to me more about the nutrition program. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that are changing diets, going from omnivore to vegan to vegetarian to pescatarian to pastatarian to
You got it.
whatever. Uh, Tell me what's going on with the nutrition.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's so right. You got that right on. So nutrition is both an essential component of each and every one of our lives, right? We eat multiple times a day if we're lucky, right? But it's also a really important thing to study. And we're finding nutrition is actually relatively new science, which seems kind of crazy because people have had to eat, since the beginning of time, to make sure their bodies are healthy. But we didn't really understand, how food impacted our bodies. And we especially didn't understand how changing and genetically modifying foods have a really big impact on, how we feel, our mental health, what we're doing for the environment, just understanding how our food is raised or farmed, and how the earth is impacted in these ways. So in our Family Consumer Studies 21, or nutrition, that's what the tag is for it. We go into a lot of those different components. So it's a really special and unique opportunity for students to learn both about what they're putting in their bodies, how, what vitamins and minerals are essential nutrients and non-essential nutrients, et cetera. But we delve a little bit more into the cultural components as well. And we say, hey, why are we eating in these ways? Why have we chosen to one of these diets like you described? And how can we adapt what we like to what we've learned to make sure that we are healthfully fueling our body with good, high, nutritious foods and things of the like. So our Associates for Transfer in Nutrition and Dietetics is a super opportunity for students to get into this. We often see them transfer to CSULA. They have a very strong nutrition program. And they can, from there, go into even being a flavor creator. Like, how cool is that? Creating flavors of ice cream, all sorts of other things. But that was just one example I've heard before. You can work in the health field. You can work in a nursing home. They have dietary departments who support this. People will go into individual counseling and health, like they'll do fitness counseling as well as nutritional counseling, working for a YMCA or other organization that's supporting health. So there's a lot of different ways you can go to really understand food as medicine, food as fuel, and not as necessarily like our enemy as we often look at it when we're dieting.
You mentioned flavors of ice cream. I remember I went to the garlic festival and I actually tried garlic ice cream.
Ooh,
It was it was actually
good.
really good. It was good.
Not my jam, I don't think, but yeah,
Well, there's no such thing as too much garlic.
good for you.
Oh, so one last thing.
Okay.
What makes the department at East Los Angeles College special?
Okay. Now, I've thought a lot about this, not because we were going to talk, but just in the last year with all of the changes, we have really made a point to do a couple of things, a couple of really important things. The first thing that our department has done is really looked at how can we make sure that students are as successful as they can be. We had to transition all online, and before we were maybe at 5% of our classes online, and now we're looking at, hey, where were our successes? How did students do with these classes? What works online? What timetable works online? And we've really done an analysis through talking to students, through surveying the faculty members, and we've made plans to make sure that we can support quite a few additional classes online for the foreseeable future. We've also considered our options to provide 8-week sections of classes. And we've done that a little bit in the past, but what we're doing is intentionally offering different programs in sequence so students can complete up to 3 different certificates in as little as 1 year. So that's really like 2 big semesters and 1 intersession. So if a student really wanted to come in, work really hard, get those certifications and get out into the workforce, they can do that. No more waiting. So we thought a lot about that. We also have thought a lot about equity, inclusion, social justice. How can we, as early childhood educators, both stand up as a department and say, hey, this is really important to us, and we need to bring this into our teaching of adults, but how then can we inspire our students who are the next generation of early childhood educators and really educators in general? How can we inspire them to continue this important anti-bias work? And what are we doing? So we've made tweaks to our mission statement as a department. We have made a syllabus change. We have encouraged inclusivity and diversity statements for all faculty members to include on their syllabus. And we have encouraged sort of a cultural curriculum shift in paradigm so that we make sure that we're looking at every single one of our assignments to say, how is this making sure that we are supporting students, that we are shifting the lens to make sure we're looking at different views, and what can we do just to make sure that we are walking the walk and talking the talk about social justice and anti-bias, in education.
Wow. Sounds really good. I'd like to thank you for your time. And let's hope that we can get some more students interested in East Los Angeles College continuing education and workforce development, child care education, and family services.
You got it.
Thank you again. I do appreciate it. And let's go Huskies.
Thank you so much, Andy.